Problems are for all.
Yeah.
The wise man builds upon the rock, the foolish man builds upon the sand. The storm comes to the wise man, and the storm comes to the foolish man. But it's not about how you prevent storm, but it's how you go through the storm.
Yeah.
You know,
When did you realize that social media can be a pulpit for you?
life is hard for everyone.
Yeah.
Just because you accept the gospel or just because you preach the gospel, doesn't mean that you don't have problems. If you let yourself dream the dream that God has dreamt for you, all that you need to worry about, or all that you will learn at the end, is that you are everything because you know God. Love is a principle. I wrote a quote that said, when two hearts are drawn to each other, it's because they're drawn to God. So it's a principle. It's not the feeling, because you're going to have difficulties. Some days are good, some days are not good. Just like our relationship with God. There's some days you're thinking, are you here?
I testify. Why do you testify?
I testify? Oh, you mean?
Why the name? Why the name I testify?
I testify because it was a ministry that's all about you testifying, real conversations, telling your story. So that's the idea. We have hard conversations, intergenerational ministry, more for young adults, but so it's you testify, and everybody who goes up there will testify about something.
And do you find people open enough to share their stories?
More than open, very vulnerable. Like, I just left my marriage, or I had, the sin of promiscuity,
Yeah.
So people will testify about those things to help people. And it helps the relationships in the church, because I think the gap between young adults and the older generation is those hard conversations.
Yeah.
So I think what I've seen is helped in our church, at least, to bridge that, because we can have those conversations and say, I'm struggling with this. And then they're like, oh, I totally understand you now, or I understand why you're the way that you are. These are the, church people. So you sort of get to understand each other, like coming from your perspective, because everyone has a story.
Yeah, people don't talk about people are not vulnerable enough nowadays, I feel,
No.
out in the public especially, because they're always
Because as soon as you are, it's either somebody throws a stone or they go repeat and rehearse your story.
yeah.
But when you have podcasts like that and you see that everybody's vulnerable.
Yeah. Then you are
And they've
open
gotten
enough.
comfortable with the camera, and they know that they're on YouTube, and they're like, I'm just willing to tell it.
Yeah.
And then you look at some people and you're like, that's why you're the way you are. Not in a bad way, but it's like, I understand your story. Like, there's one lady, she's sort of a past that church, but then you understand, like, she grew up without her dad, and she's like in her 60s, but
Yeah.
the way she speaks about it, it broke her. And we're like, sometimes you're like, we're products of our situation sometimes, Okay, we're talking as if we're on the podcast.
We are on the podcast.
Oh!
We've been recording since you sat there.
Oh my goodness, that's so interesting.
And you know how I started this? So I used to, sit down, get ready and then press record, and then we start recording.
That's
But I
nice.
realized that the conversations that we have just before we start, sometimes they are very...
The most authentic and
You
real,
know?
and yeah, you don't feel like now I'm being recorded.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I actually did a search on the internet for what Thandekile means. I learned that it stands for one who is loved.
One who is loved, yes. Loved.
Beautiful. And I just love how you are out here sharing the love with the world.
Yes. I know.
Well, I look at your social media, and I think you were one of the first few people. I mean, social media had been there for a while, and maybe people hadn't found a way to authentically share the preachings or the ministry on social media. But I feel like you figured that out so early.
It started about 6 years ago. And it's a long story, but long story short. And I walked away from my career. I was doing chemical engineering. And it was like a Paul experience. That's what I call it, my Paul experience, where you're not forced, but you have, you have that intense moment with God, and it's him knocking you off the horse, blinding you from where you're going in order to show you where he wants you to go. For you to be able to say, Lord, I got to a point where I said, like Paul, Lord, what will you have me to do? I get it. Like, I get it. This direction where I'm going is not for me. What do you want me to do? So in the meantime, I started doing videos on Instagram. I would read. I started reading. I think
Yeah.
it took me about a period of like 6 months where I was intensely doing nothing, literally doing nothing. I left school and I would just study, go through the Ellen
And
White
study
books,
here
the
is, oh yeah.
Bible, and study these things. And then as I'm studying it, I'm like, I can't, like Jeremiah says, it's almost like a fire in my bones. I can't keep this knowledge to myself. So how can I like write little devotionals from whatever I read and then make a video and share it? So I always felt this probe, like with the more knowledge that comes, I'm like, aha. It's like a aha moment, like I
Yeah.
get it now. And with me getting it, it's like there's this fire in my bones that's like, you need to share it. You can't just keep this for yourself. So ever since then, it's like the more that I go, the more that I go, the more that it needs to come out. It needs to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, as I'm seated here listening to you, I'm listening to your voice in my headphones, and you are so authentic. It's like you're born to do this. You know, it's like you're born to be in front of a microphone, in front of a camera, and speak. You know, and I'm thinking that you were headed to a career in chemical engineering, and you're gonna probably be stuck in some, you know, lab
Lab.
somewhere,
Yes.
which is what I do in my day job, actually.
Right.
You know, living in the lab. And but then I'm like, I feel like this is your actual calling. You're made to do this.
Yeah, you know what's interesting that you said that. So when there was a lady from our sister church in Hamilton, Mountain Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Yeah.
And I would see her in passing. So when I went to McMaster, I was doing my bridge program over there in McMaster for engineering. And she was the dean. So I see her when I volunteered for one of these annual, not annual, it's like every 5 years, it's like a science fair or something like that around the world. It's a global event. So I volunteered. They said engineering students volunteer if you would like to, to volunteer for the day. I volunteered. And when I got there, she was there. And I'm like, what are you doing here? She's like, I'm your dean. And I'm like,
She's
no
the
way.
dean of the
Dean of engineering. Yes, civic master. And I said, what do you mean you're the dean? And she's like, yes, I'm the vice dean. I said, okay. And so I volunteered during the day. Whatever thing was good. We talked for a little bit before I left. And I will never forget what she said to me. She said, you don't belong here.
Hey.
She said, if you make it, just
Yeah.
like that. She said, if you make it, you'll be the first of its kind. But you don't belong here.
Didn't that make you feel like she was throwing you off the
It
boat?
gave me peace.
Okay.
I walked out of there and I said, you know what, God? Yeah. And that's why I called it a Paul moment, because I had gone to Thunder Bay.
Yeah.
And I always tell this story, but I had gone to Thunder Bay, and mind you, when I had graduated and I was doing my postgraduate studies, I was like top 5% of the class.
Yeah.
I was an A student. I'm talking about, I didn't play. I didn't get time to do anything, hang out with friends. I was sleeping at school, showering, gym, all of that. So I said to God, I want to be the top 1%. I want to aim high. Listen to a sermon, and Pastor Skeet, my pastor, had said, if you read the Bible and study, you will be more intelligent. So I said to God,
So
I'm
that's
going to.
what you did.
That's what I said. I said, I'm not going to study all day like I used to. I'm going to give 50% of my day to your word, 50% of my day to studying my studies. Now, as I started to do that, I was losing my ability to retain information. Sounds odd. Like literally losing. And I said to God, something is happening. It's either I'm going like nuts mentally, something is happening, because the more I study and things that I know, I've been tested on, things that I'm confident I could walk out of the exam with like perfection.
Yeah.
Not because I'm boasting, but that's just how serious I was with my studies. And now I'm walking into an exam and I can't write nothing except for my name and the date and my student number.
Weren't you like, Randy, what did you say? You say that if I read your word, I retain more information, and I'm here studying. And
What is happening?
yeah.
I'm telling you, like, I'm studying and information's coming in and it's refusing to come out. That's how difficult it was. Something as easy as, YMX plus B. Couldn't figure it out, question like that. And I'm thinking, what is happening? So that's number one. That's in Thunder Bay. I left. I said, you know what happened twice? I said, okay, no problem. I'm going to go home. And then came to McMaster. Had that experience with her. And when she said that, that's when I knew. And she said, you don't belong here. I said, I'm not going to fight you anymore. I get it. Did an exam, same thing happened. I literally walked out of my last exam at McMaster. I'll never forget. I walked out dancing in the hallways, dancing, jumping. I got into my car, I smiled, and I said, I'm going to give up. It was December, it was, no, yeah, December, around December 2018, 2019. I, I walked, no, 2018, sorry. I walked away and I spent the next 6 months praying 5 days a week at a river. I would spend like 3 hours a day praying and fasting, praying and fasting. What do you want me to do? What will you have me to do? Just like Paul. So
And eventually, did you get like a voice speaking to you?
eventually, my uncle had come down. It's a long story, but I'm trying to. My uncle
No
had
worries.
come down to visit us January of 2019 from Africa, and he was like, you should do some call porter evangelism. And I was
What
like,
is colporteur evangelism?
so that is literature door-to-door evangelism. So you go door to door and you hand out, like, you have different books. So you have
Yeah.
Steps to Christ, Desire of Ages, and stuff like that. So they would.
And is this something that is offered by your church? I'm only asking this for the
Yes,
audience,
so
audience
it's,
members
yes,
who don't know.
yes.
What
So
that
it's
is.
offered by the Seventh Day Adventists. I don't know if it's. I know I did in the States. So in the States, it's offered by conferences. So you can go to the Michigan conference. I went to the Tennessee conference. So yeah, it's offered through the conferences, canvassing programs. They have
Yeah.
summer programs or call porter evangelism, where you do it outside the summer programs. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Canada, I know they have I forgot what it's called, but they have a program in Canada as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I went to
So
the States.
yeah. So now you're doing your corporate ministry.
Yeah,
And-
so I went and I did, and he asked me, he's like, you should do call porter evangelism. I said, I'm a city girl. I don't do that. What is that? So
Yeah.
he had asked me about 3 times, and I was like, no, I'm okay. So anyways, long story short, about the 6th month of praying, June, it was now June, right? About 5 months, 6 months. Went to church for an AY program. I stayed, and there was a youth pastor. And then in the afternoon, he did testimonies about how he was, in this canvassing and call porter ministry, his experiences. And I felt my heart almost leave my body. I wanted to run.
No worries.
I wanted to run, and I wanted to say to him, like, tell me more, help me to get into this. So I went up to him afterwards, and we chit-chatted for the night, for the rest of the evening, and he gave me all the information. Unfortunately, the deadline had hit. So most of the conferences were full and they were done. But called my uncle, and he said, I'm going to try to make something happen. He said I could try to sign up. Everybody's full, but you could try to sign up, and if somebody drops, they might accept you. And I get a call a few days later from this man. He said, I looked at the questions, because you have to do like a sort of like a, what do you call it? Answer a few questions.
Yeah.
Right. And he said, I look at your answers that you gave. Unfortunately, my program is full, but I am so impressed that honestly, if somebody drops, I will call you immediately.
Yeah.
Few days passed after that. This is like a week passed from the day I listened to the sermon, and he calls and he says, somebody dropped. You can come. I didn't have money.
Yeah.
And he said, no, don't worry. We'll pay for your ticket, and then we'll take care of everything. It'll take care of itself as you come and work here.
Yeah.
Got on a plane the next week. I was out of Canada in the States, and I spent the next 3 months doing that.
Beautiful.
And from that moment, that experience, just doing mission work there, changed my life. It gave me a sense of purpose, direction, and I had to trust God. And I remember 2025, January 2025, I found a book that I had. I'd taken a journal there, and I would write in this journal. So I flipped to one of the pages because I was cleaning out my closet, and I flipped to one of the pages, and I had my prayer requests. So I had it in sections. I had career, family, friends, and I would write lists and lists and pray. And one of the things I wrote when I was call portering 6 years ago, in 2019, I wrote under career, Lord, I'm afraid that if I give up this career, I'll feel like I'm nothing. That's what I wrote. And then under my dreams, plans, hopes, and wishes, I wrote, I want to travel the world and preach. 5 years, or about 6 years later, I'm traveling the world and I'm preaching. And I've learned the lesson that if I dream the dream that God dreams for me, and I accept that dream, other than because I had my dream. I wanted to be an engineer, and I was going to get there by any means necessary. But if you let yourself dream the dream that God has dreamt for you. All that you need to worry about, or all that you will learn at the end, is that you are everything because you know God. You know, I felt like I attached my significance to a career. I attached my worth to a career. I attached my importance to a career. But I realized I am everything to him on a personal level. He's my personal savior.
Yeah.
And that was enough. So that took 5-6 years to get to that point, a journey of faith, where I had to let go of this big dream that I had in my mind. I struggled, I cried, but I said, Lord, I'm going to trust you, because wherever you want me to go, I will go. But I have my feelings are not in the right place, but I know that you have better plans for me. And 6 years later, he's done it, and he's exceeded my
You know, I,
expectations.
I love your answer here because where I was going to go, you left me at the river where you're praying at the
Yes.
river, and, you know, you were asking for a sign.
Yeah.
So in my head, I was like, did God come and talk to you? Did he hear a still small voice? But you know, you've given a very beautiful answer, because I think people are always looking for answers to something. And sometimes that answer takes a long while before, you know, you actually realize that, you know, this has been your answer building up for the past, you know, 6 years or 5 years or a week or 2 weeks, something like that. I think that is, you know, that becomes beautiful about your story here. You know, as we're talking here, I'm wondering if someone is meeting you for the first time, you know, they don't know you, they haven't met you before, who would you say you are? And what would you say is the reason why you are so driven to do what you do?
I'm laid back. Um, on the onset of things, I'm a little shy. I'm a shy person, I know.
Are you?
I am a very shy
Funny thing,
person.
everybody who's on social media says, you know, anybody who's out there publicly on social media says, I'm a very shy person.
I'm a very shy person. Like,
And I do believe you.
so shy to the extent, like, even when I have to preach, when I started preaching, even until now, I cry before I go up there, because it is intense. I don't know. I'm like, Lord, what am I going to say to these people? And how am I going to deliver this? Like, I'm literally telling him, like, I don't know how to speak, you know, even the style of speaking, like, help me. I'm
So what
very
you're
shy.
saying is that, you know, even the very great speakers that we see out there, sometimes they are,
Extremely shy.
yeah.
Nervous. You're falling apart. Like, I'm falling apart. But I'm like, yeah.
So if
But
you are falling apart and you are, you know, a public speaker, don't worry, you're getting there. You know, you are probably the greatest speaker and you don't know it.
you're getting there, because it's not about the action of doing it. It's what drives you. And that's what's important. What is driving me? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Your motive and intent could take you further than your inability. So you don't think about what I can't do, what I'm comfortable doing. You just worry about what is driving me.
Yeah.
You know, and if you have that purpose and you have that vision, all the difficulties start to disappear as you go.
So the question that you need to answer is, what is the reason you say you're so driven to do what you do?
Oh, why am I so driven? Because I met the Savior. You know, there are people who know, who know, how do I say it? They know the man. There are people who know the man, and then there are people who know the idea of the man, or people who read the Bible and they know the words, or they just read the words on the pages of the Bible, and there are people who know their Savior. And I met my Savior, and I accepted my Savior, and I had an interaction with my Savior, you know, during those months of trying to find purpose in my career. You know, I know him. And in knowing him, that's what drives me. The love that he has for me, the mercy and the grace that he's given me, and, you know, seeing how he loves people through me in my faith experience has driven me to see how far I said to somebody, I'm like, I had been asked to do a series in South Africa. And I met this girl, and she came, we had a conversation, and she really wanted to give her life to Christ. And I said to her, God brought me all the way from Canada to South Africa for you. And I said to her, like, God loves you. That's how deep this is, you know. And to see the lengths to which God is willing to go to save humanity, even through me, not what he could do for me on a materialistic level, but what he's willing to do in the sacrifices I have to take in order for God to save somebody, shows me how much he loves people. And if he can love somebody that much, I can only imagine how much he loves me. So that's been my drive.
This is why I'm so amazed with the kind of conversations that we hold on the Couch Connect, because we meet with, very diverse people in different, journeys of their faith. Some, very faith,
Yes.
some in deep faith, some who are non-believers. But
Yes.
in that, I get to see that we all have something that we're offering the world.
Yes.
Folks, if you're new to this show, this is the Couch Connect over here. I hang out with great folks like Melissa here, and we talk about the science and art in everyday life experiences. So if you haven't yet, do subscribe to this channel and like this episode, and remember to tell your friends, tell their friends. And my promise to you is that I'm going to continue trying to become better at doing what I do, ask great questions, continue getting great guests like Melissa here to hang out with them, and continue having great conversations. Melissa told me earlier on, we were chatting about her name, and we learned that her name, or rather I learned earlier that her name means one who was loved. And I was just, after listening to her story in the past couple of minutes, I'm very impressed with the fact that she's living out her name, giving out her love to the world and showing, the love of God to the world. I feel like the world is full of confusion right now. Hopelessness is what I'd say.
Right.
Do you think that there's any hope that is there for the world right now in the face of all this trouble, all this conflict that is going on in people's minds or in communities, nations, etc.?
I read the book. I love the book. It's called The Desire of Ages.
Yeah.
And it's in the name itself. The Desire of Ages. Generations, centuries, ages, years, the thing that our hearts desire most than anything else is Jesus. And that is our only hope, because one day money will fail. You and I maybe have experienced failed relationships. We will experience failures, and even in our careers, in our hopes, in our dreams, in our plans. Some people are struggling with children who are lost, and you feel like you failed as a parent, right? There's so much failures in life. There's so much or lack of instability. There are things that end. Nothing is permanent. And in knowing that, you're searching for the thing that is permanent, and it's all a mental thing. I was at a situation that I went through this week, and I was like, I'm not struggling with a circumstance, because I know that it'll pass. Everything passes. Everything I've been through in the past ends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You overcome it. God does. It changes. Seasons
Yeah.
change. But in knowing that after fall, winter will come or whatever, the thing that's killing people is the mind. And it's something, we need something that is constant, that doesn't change while our outside world changes. And so, like I said, the book, The Desire of Ages, it says it in the name. Our only hope is in Christ. And that
Yeah.
is the desire of the soul. And we don't realize it. People don't realize it. And that's why it's so important to try to be a beacon of light and hope.
Yeah.
You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the world. So it is our duty to shine that light and reflect that light so others can be drawn to that hope.
I'm thinking about what you just said here, permanent. It is not permanent. It is a feeling, or it is mental. And there's something else that you've said in one of your posts that I saw recently. You say that love is not a feeling. I don't know if you remember that post.
Yes, yes, yes.
So if you would paraphrase, then what is love if it's not a feeling?
Love is a principle.
Okay.
I wrote a quote that said, when two hearts are drawn to each other, it's because they're drawn to God. It's like a heart, right? It's like a magnet. It comes together. There's something that has to draw it together. So for all as individuals, an individual, you're drawing closer to Christ and I'm drawing closer to Christ. We come closer to each other. So it's a principle. It's not the feeling, because you're going to have difficulties. Some days are good. Some days are not good. Just like our relationship with God. There's some days you're thinking, are you here? And he's like, but I'll never leave you nor forsake you. So it's the principle of trusting his word. It's the principle of accepting his love. And when you follow the principles of God, then you start to understand love, because you're becoming like him in thought. You're becoming like him in character. So love is a principle. It's not a feelings fluctuate. But faith remains consistent.
Yeah.
Love remains a consistent variable
Okay.
throughout the circumstances.
Melissa, you're dropping these lines here, man, and I'm thinking, where have I been all these years? Because what I've been learning is so different. I've always thought about, what, I was taught earlier by some speakers
Yes.
that, love is broken into four types of love, when they talk about it in the Greek.
Right.
And the love that we have in English just combines all those four into one, but it doesn't really do a good job. And every time you have to think about breaking them apart.
Right.
So there's a line, another quote that you have, another post that you have that says that the world is God's workshop, and it's always molding us. And so I'm wondering, if the world is God's workshop, and then there's all this conflict, and people are not loving each other, why can't God just mold us to become loving to one another? Or is it us who are the problem? We are unmoldable to love one another. Or like you said, become like magnets and be pulled to one another.
Is love force?
That's a good question. I don't know.
If someone loves you, will they force you?
Well, I remember when I was younger and I loved someone, I wanted them to love me back by force, and only that I didn't have the energy to make them love me by force. Now that I'm older, I know that I can't force them to love me. They have to be willing.
And even if
to
you were to
reciprocate.
force it, right? You don't feel loved. You feel like you have a puppet
Yeah.
that's catering to your needs or your insecurities. But you feel more loved when you know that somebody's trying to love you the way you want to be loved. They're going out of their way. There's a different type of feeling that comes with that, or appreciation that comes from that. So love is not forced. God does not force. He does
Yeah.
not compel. But God draws by love. He shows you, he says, he demonstrates his love. We love because he first loved us. So in that, when we say the world is God's workshop, even the bad things we are seeing, it's a demonstration of love. God could have destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah right away.
Yeah.
But as he spoke with Abraham, you know what he said? I'm going down to Sodom to see and investigate things for myself. So he's showing that even in his love and mercy, he wants to first give it a chance, give it a try, give it, come down himself and see it. That's what Jesus said to Abraham. See
Yeah.
himself. Give Lot a chance. Give his children, whoever it is that's willing to answer the call. So even in love, yes, somebody might be harming you. Somebody might be doing things to hurt you. But it's a demonstration of God's love because he gives the wicked time to change.
Yeah.
That's a demonstration of love. If God were to zap us with lightning every time we did something wrong, that wouldn't be love. We wouldn't be drawn to him. You'd be scared of him. But it's in the patience. And you hear when people testify of their journey in faith, they'll always say, the mercy of God is real. Because you know your dirt. You know how low you've gotten. And he's had the ability to lift you up even when people said you couldn't. And that's love. That the bad things that are happening, and he sees it. He understands. He's touched by the feelings of our infirmities. But he says, my grace is sufficient for you. There's no situation that any of us are in that we can't get through. But he gives us time. He gives the wicked time to change. He appeals to us, and that is love. So he's working us, he's grooming us, he's allowing situations and circumstances so that we could see ourselves for who we really are and address that.
Yeah.
But you could force it if you wanted to, but that's not love.
Listening to you, I feel like you live what you speak, or at least that's what you saw on social media. And I feel like social media has become such a powerful tool, or is such a powerful tool
Yes.
in expressing what we know to the world. But do you also think that in our quest to make the world a good place and a place that's full of love, where we can all accept one another, do you feel like social media can also be a place where faith and hope and love sometimes gets pushed away?
Most definitely. And what causes the confusion is when we draw away from God's principles. Because then we're all arguing, or we take our position based on opinion and not by what's right, the fact. And in doing that, it causes tension.
Yeah.
Because you have people on this side, you have people on that side, you have people, everybody has a different standard. So we're not able to meet together in one mind and one judgment. And that's why I said love is a principle, because you need knowledge in order to understand love.
Yeah.
And that knowledge of God is what's bringing us together, because we're agreeable, we're agreeing. So our differences are ripping us apart. You're a reflection of something that I don't believe in.
True.
And then I hate you, you hate me. We have tension and we can't, so
We can't agree.
We can't agree. And I've seen it in the comment section. I love comments. I always go to the comment section of every video, and
Yeah.
it's a carnal nature, but you love the drama because you
Yeah.
see this person here, and so it's just
Everybody has something they
yeah,
gotta
everybody
say.
has something to say, and we all believe, even in our opinions. The funny part is we're so confident in wrong.
Yeah.
We think we know it all. You're not willing to listen to the other person. So, there's a lot of mess, Babylon is in confusion,
Yeah.
and the hearts of many have gone cold,
Do you feel like the comments that you get are authentic most of the time?
What's interesting? Somebody commented on my video and was like, I've been seeing you post, but like, you're not getting a lot of like, you're not really growing, and you're not getting a lot of it on Facebook. And I said, the gospel's not popular.
True.
The person can be, an individual can be, but the gospel is not as popular. Algorithms are not as,
Yeah. They won't push the.
depending on what the message is. If you preach love, grace, mercy, but then there's hard conversations. I think we talked about that.
Yeah.
There's hard conversations that you need to have, like accountability, when you start pressing on folks' sins, and that's not the most enjoyable thing, because some people might feel like it's an attack. But the only way a sinner can come up face to face with another sinner and look you straight in the eye and tell you sin is bad is because they know they've been forgiven.
Yeah.
Because I understand how low I've been, how low a man can go, and that God can bring them up. So those kind of tough conversations, and it kind of pricks the human heart a little bit.
Yeah.
And
True.
it puts a bad taste in your mouth. So, yeah.
So you think they're authentic? The comments.
I think the comments, for the most part, very authentic. Everybody draws a different person.
Yeah.
Your work is different from me. You're needed just as much as I'm needed, because there's a certain group of people that I reach that you can't reach, that you reach that I can't reach. So so
true.
whoever is commenting, whoever is feeding from that is authentic, and there are people who will never comment. And they're authentic, but they're seeing your consistency can save a life.
Yeah.
Not because of what you're saying, but they see how hard and driven you are to do something. So with social media, I try to be balanced in that. Like, I know I have a mission, and my objective is not the objective of everyone else's. It might not be money. It might not be this. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I would love that too. But my mission is different. My mission is I need to be consistent enough for somebody to get it, for somebody to say, like, what is that thing?
Interestingly enough, we're talking about comments here. In most of my videos, especially YouTube videos, people watch them, but they rarely comment. I'm like, man, why don't you ever say a thing?
Yeah. But think about you. Do you comment a lot?
Do I comment on other people's videos?
Yes.
Not really.
Right. So exactly. And then I'm that way. And I thought I had to introspect, and I said, I don't even comment a lot, but I watch a lot. I'm actually going through your comment section, but I'm not commenting. I don't even like sometimes.
I should also go through the comment section and read. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what you thought. Okay,
exactly.
cool.
So you don't comment, which you don't like. So there's plenty of other people who are not commenting and not liking, but they're learning something.
Yeah.
You're planting a seed, and God will water it.
When did you realize that social media can be a pulpit for you?
I love pictures. I'm a picture person. I love videos. That is my thing. And I was like, so I need to be a woman of substance, because I can come on here and take shots of myself all day long and selfies. I used to do that all the time. Post. Then I'm like, what is my purpose in life? Am I just going to sit here and do this? Gotta do something of substance, something of worth, something that somebody can come learn something from and take something away from it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how.
Yeah. So after you're doing that, that's when you realize that
Just when
this
I realized,
can
you know what?
also be.
Yeah, I can do this too for God's glory.
Yeah.
Why
Beautiful.
not? Every opportunity. Every opportunity. You're a walking ministry. And I always say to God, like, my motherhood, my, even me joking and laughing and giggling and in pleasure, like, I want you to help me. And everything that I'm doing will represent you. I don't have to be on the pulpit. I don't have to be preaching. I don't have to say a verse.
True.
Help that to reflect you in a way. I don't know how you'll do it, but you'll do it.
I think that it is also very vulnerable. Being okay to show your life like that authentically on social media is very vulnerable. And speaking about vulnerability, I remember an experience that I had a couple of days ago.
Yes.
I walked up to this office and I was talking to this lady in the office. She was the receptionist, and we were talking. I was asking to meet some gentleman who works there. I couldn't remember his first name, so I told the lady his last name, and I'm like, I'm here to meet this guy. He met me earlier outside, but I was so busy on the phone I couldn't, I don't remember what we exactly talked about, but I think that conversation was very interesting. Even if we had that conversation for like 20 seconds, I'd like to talk more to him, or I'd like to continue that conversation. It's a
Right.
conversation about my line of work. And so the lady is like, well, I'm sorry, I can't give you information about a person who works here. Oh, okay, but you can leave your name and number, and then they'll call you back. And so in my friendly, I'm like, write my name and number. I'm like, oh, so what's your name? Like, I can't tell you my name because it's security. It's a security concern.
Right.
And in my head, I was like, you are a receptionist. As a receptionist,
You're like,
honestly,
yeah.
you should tell me your name.
Right.
It's humanly sane for me to expect that you can tell me
That's
your name if you're
normal.
working as a receptionist. I mean, I walk
Right.
around sometimes, people who are working in contact with, the outside world, customers of a company or anything like that. Sometimes they even have name tags of their names on their chest telling you who they are. So I'm like, are we now in a world where we can't actually share names with people? And I found that could be to be, quite
Very,
interesting.
yeah.
And so I was just here wondering, why are we feeling so disconnected and distrustful from folks in the world? And I found that to be, you know, quite something. So eventually I ended up asking her, you know what, I think I want to understand these principles because she told me that this is how we are trained and stuff like that. I even asked for a manager's number and I called the manager. And even in the first time, you said that you're a person of color and you like taking pictures and putting yourself online like that. I told her, you know what, I feel like you can't tell me your name because I'm a person of color. And maybe you're afraid because you used the word security concern there, and I'm a person of color, and you say I could go online and look you up if I have So I called up the manager. I'm like, so I met this lady, and this is what she told me, and I've had these negative experiences before, and I feel like this is one of those implicit biases. And the manager's like, no, that lady is like that. She doesn't want to share her name. But in my head, I'm like, she can even give a first name. Give a first name, and if you can be so distrustful, you can give a first name. If you can give a first name, give a nickname.
Traumas.
you know. But like you said, yeah, traumas. People are going through stuff out here.
Or have been through experiences. I've learned that, you look at a person, you don't know what their story is.
Have you ever faced any online trolling or any criticism online?
When I first started my ministry, there were these men. They would give me a run for my money. And I wasn't as well read, and I didn't understand a lot of deep things, but
Yeah.
they would go back and forth with me, and they would express, like, they would make fun of Christ, and they would say this God thing doesn't work, and ask these hard questions, and
Yeah.
they would take me on a loop. And then I started to realize, no, they're not asking for clarification or understanding. They're asking to, they're people who ask not for them to understand. They're committed to misunderstanding.
Yeah.
They're asking just to waste your time. And I said, no, no, no. Like Eve, you spend a lot of time speaking to the devil, he'll eventually convince you,
Yeah.
And so I decided, I need to, pick your battles.
Yeah.
Pick your battles.
There's not gonna be that
you
for
don't
me.
convince somebody by arguing. No, that's not how it works, So, yeah, so I've had those experiences. But for the most part, honestly, no, I think most judgments probably come from the mind. And you
Yeah.
know it as the world rubs hard against you when you try to do good. When you position yourself to make a decision to walk a different path or to do what is right, Satan is
Yeah.
not happy,
True.
and you're walking in the opposite direction of the majority of people, the straight path, only if you find
Yeah.
it, the broad way, everybody walks in it, So, yeah, this, you know this, but again, focus.
Yeah.
You got to
True.
know where you're going. What is the end game, and you keep your eye there, and you can't be distracted.
Listening to you, I'm just wondering. You're very open. I feel like you're an open book. Well, you probably have
I
some
hope so.
parts that
I hope so.
you probably have some parts that you don't share online. But I mean, you're vulnerable enough and you're visible enough. Is there? And you make it look so effortless.
Oh dear.
So I'm like, but it can't be so effortless though. I'm just thinking because I put so much effort into making this show be what it is and all that.
Right.
So I'm like, it can't be that effortless for her. She must also be going through something. Sometimes she might find it hard. Have you ever found anything to be hard or anything
Oh
like
yes. Oh yes.
What's the hardest?
You're coming down my lane. Yeah. Life is hard for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, just because you accept the gospel or just because you preach the gospel, doesn't mean that you don't have problems. Problems are for all. You know,
Yeah.
the wise man builds upon the rock, the foolish man builds upon the sand. The storm comes to the wise man, and the storm comes to the foolish man. But it's not about how you prevent storm, but it's how you go through the storm.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, life is hard for everyone. Life has been hard for me. I have battle wounds. I have battle scars.
Yeah.
But wounds heal, right?
Yeah.
You know, God has given us a mechanism for us to get up. When the times are hard, when we fall, a righteous man falls 7 times, but he gets back up. You know,
Yeah.
I have to battle with feelings. You know, because my feelings tell me this, but God's word tells me that, and my whole life is a battle between overcoming doubt and having faith in God.
Yeah.
So I have problems. There's nothing new under the sun. I'm not the first, and I'm certainly not the last. But again, life isn't about preventing the storm. It's how I'm going to go through the storm.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is, am I doing it for God's glory? Am I staying composed and not allowing Satan to get you in a position where he can accuse you? And sometimes you'll fall. I have fallen sometimes. And
Yeah.
I have to say, when it comes again, Lord, give me the strength to overcome it. So yes, I cry. Jesus wept.
Yeah.
I've cried.
Yeah, you said that
You
earlier.
know, I've felt pain. You know, I've had disappointments and failures. But you get up. You get up and you
Yeah.
keep pressing forward because again, focus. You know, and your purpose.
You said that God gives us mechanisms. I found that powerful. What mechanisms has God given you?
The word. It's healing.
Yeah.
Ministry. The most healing thing. You know, I find when I'm going through some of the darkest chapters in life, I have an assignment. And you don't know how many assignments I've had where, I get up on that pulpit and it's, I actually feel it, it's like the word is going and I'm learning too. I'm being taught as I'm teaching. And, but when I go into the room, I'm on the floor weeping,
Yeah.
broken, asking God, deliver me, help me to believe the words that I'm preaching,
Yeah.
help me to believe the thing that I'm telling these people,
And do you have would you say that you have people who hold you? Maybe I cut you off there.
Yes, no, go ahead.
Yeah. But do you believe that you have these people who hold you, when you are, fighting your battles, who hold you and they walk with you and then, show you love and support and guide you along?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, you have family.
Yeah.
That's your most consistent support. And I've also learned not because somebody is your blood, the Bible says, Psalm 1 verse 1 says, blessed is the man who walks on the counsel of the ungodly.
Yeah.
I've learned it's so important not just to have your support system, not just be people who started from the bottom. You came up together, you've known them the longest, but it's having people who are wise counselors, not just
Yeah.
in advice, but people who actually love God and who are
Yeah.
on that journey, because they'll lift you up to Him.
Yeah.
They'll lead you into decision making that is in line with God's will, not selfish, not because most people are reactive. They give
Yeah.
you advice based on reactions, based on what would I do. Sometimes it's just competition with you, and they're giving you advice so that you don't end up being like them. So you need to find somebody whose intents and motives are driven by
Yeah.
pure motive, by purity, by pure principles. So, anyways, yeah, you have family, and then I think of the David and Jonathan story,
Yeah.
Those friends. God will always bring you an unexpected ally in your moment of trial, And for David, it was the very man who was trying to kill him. It was his son, unexpected, but he brought him an ally. So in every situation that I've been in, when I've been in trouble, when I've gone through trial, when I've gone through my darkest chapters, God has always brought me an unexpected
Yeah.
ally. Whether it's somebody on the opposing side, whether it's somebody that, I would have never thought you would be my friend in this life. I have friends and I'm like, I would have
How?
never, I would have never chose you. Like, and I'm not saying in a bad way, but I'm
Yeah.
like, how? But God, through His providence, has
Yeah.
made it possible because He knows you are going to be the one that's going to carry me through and encourage me in this moment. So God can do it. God will do it.
How then can we teach the next generation or folks out there even
Yes.
to love not just their neighbors or their friends, but also people who don't look like them, or people who don't believe like them, who share, opposing ideologies, or who look differently. How can we teach them that?
They say hate is taught, love is taught. And the characteristics of humility is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I meet people every day who are like, I only have friends who are on a certain tax bracket,
Hey.
because they think a certain way. But I've
Yeah.
learned in life, the biggest lessons I've learned were from people who don't look like me,
Yeah.
people who don't have things like me, or who even have more,
Yeah.
or people who are not like me in any sense, of the word, you know. So yeah, it's important to have humility. Be like Christ. He
Yeah.
was willing to sit with the heathen. He was willing to sit with the publicans. He was willing to sit with sinners. He didn't do things like them. He didn't sin with them, but he was willing to come down to the level of humanity as the savior of the world, to suffer like us, to be like us. And if you imitate Christ, you're imitating characteristics that are going to allow you and teach you. We can't teach people. We can't change a person's heart. We can demonstrate, but it's Christ who will put it in you to be able to break free from these barriers in our
Yeah.
hearts. Because the truth is, our hearts, we want to be around cool people. We want to be around popular people. I know people who are colorists, who
Yeah.
want to be around people because of their skin colors, or people who are pretty or cute or handsome or have a certain amount of money. But you need to have the humility, if you are to be like Christ, to be willing to come down to anybody's level, even a child's level, And you will learn a lot if you have the mind, the openness to be willing to be taught, willing to learn. You will love people. You'll learn to love.
Listening to you here, I'm just wondering. The world is full of so much disorientation, can I call it spiritual disorientation, where people are misbelievers?
Yeah.
And I think you touched on it earlier when you said that the gospel is not popular. And I'm just wondering, what role do you think being spiritual or having faith plays in a postmodern world? And I'm using postmodernism here, the word postmodern here, not knowing what it actually means, because I know there's modernism and now I hear there's postmodernism. So I don't understand when these ages changed. But I guess what I probably mean is, right now, how
Yes.
important is it for someone to be spiritual, to have some sort of faith? Because I feel like the world is full of lots of faithlessness.
Yes. Yes.
And like you said, sometimes what I hear people say is, what, I want to hang out with these type of people.
Yes.
Or even some mentors, online
Right.
mentors, who will tell you, what, you should hang out with people who are X. Don't hang out with people who are this way.
Right.
And sometimes you find that those people who are that way are the ones who would lead you, to where you should be, not where
Right.
you really want to be, because
Right.
sometimes where you want to be is not maybe the best place. But yeah. So how do you think, what role do you think faith can play in the current world?
What role would faith play in this?
Where there's so much disorientation, so much trouble, so much confusion, I'd say, where people are like, what, I don't need to be faithful in it. I don't need to believe in anything. I can just be and I'll be fine. People are looking for
Yeah.
their own thing. So if they had faith in God, then how would that help them, in a sense?
And I think you use the best word, confusion. And that's the state of the world today. One word that can describe it all. We are confused. The world is in absolute confusion. One day you think this, one day you do that. One day, it's just all over the place. But the word of God clarifies the things we don't understand. The word of God puts things in the right perspective. And I think that's the issue that we're all having. Things are not as they appear. People are not as they appear. Things are not as they seem. You could look at this bench and see blue, but the invisible reality is that maybe there's an angel standing there, or maybe there's a demon standing there, or whatever. My point is, when we look through the right lens in this life as individuals, and that's what reading the Word of God does, it clarifies the things we don't understand, the things that we misunderstand.
Yeah.
It clarifies the things we see a certain way, and it tells us what the real truth, the real reality behind it really is. And if we get into that zone and we allow the Spirit of God to take possession of our hearts, then the confusion sort of dissipates. It sort of disappears, and we're able to see things for what they really are. So that's what we need. That's what faith will do in this in the generation we live in. You know, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. As in
Yeah.
the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, so shall it be at the coming of the Son of Man. Confusion, deep darkness. But in order for me to find my way, in order for me to find sanity of the mind, that's why we were
Yeah.
talking about the mental.
Yeah.
Everything is mental. Even the people of God, it's mental. It's not,
Yeah.
because we all know things will change. Like I said, things will change. Nothing is permanent. It's the mental state that is killing everyone.
Yeah.
And you need God to recalibrate it. The word of God will reposition it, will transform it so that you think right. You see things for what they are and you're at peace. And that's what we need, peace. To be right with God is to have peace of mind.
Yeah. And what do you think are the lies then that people tell themselves most often that keep them in confusion and away from peace?
That I know better, trust myself. I do me. I do what I want to do. Me. You know?
You know what I'm saying? Hey, it's because I tell myself that all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
As
and I
long
have
as
friends
you,
who tell
yeah,
themselves
as long
that.
as it's me, what I
Yeah.
think, you are you're setting your own standards when you have a creator who created you and knew what was best for you. Because I think, you know what it is? People look at God or this thing of faith and you're thinking, so he has a whole bunch of commands for me and this and this, and he says this because it makes him feel good for me to do these things. Yes, it benefits God in that he loves you and it's nice to be loved back because it hurts him to lose. You know, he says, you know, he's not happy at the death of the wicked. He
Yeah.
wants us all to be saved, right? But everything that God asks you to do, the way that he wants you to think, the way that he wants you to live life is for your benefit,
Yeah.
for your happiness. There's nothing he's asked you to do that's just about him feeling, putting a check mark on his ego. It's about your happiness.
Yeah.
You know,
You know, I'm just wondering here, with all the knowledge that you have and the way that you can express that knowledge, and bring all this love to the world, you know, which is full of confusion, and trying to bring them to having faith in the Lord. When you look back at your life, can
Yeah.
you say there's a context in which, what is that context that you grew up in that rooted you in the faith and kind of built the, put in place the building blocks that turn you into the person that you become today?
exposure, environment.
What kind of environment did you grow
We
up in?
don't give our parents enough credit. When you grow up in the church, you take it for granted. Grow up in the church and you're just trying to, you get to an age where you're like, I need to find something else to do. I need to find other environments. But,
Yeah.
those are building blocks because little by little, it's influencing the mind. It's swaying the mind. I was just telling my friend, I said to her, remember in high school when like, all we were worried about is on Wednesday we have practice, Friday we have praise team practice. So we were taking the bus from one side of the city to the other. It was like a 3-hour bus ride after
Yeah.
school to church, all the way back home. And that's what kept us going, And that removed a lot of the temptations to do other things. Not that we didn't engage in things, Teenagers will be teenagers and you're going to explore, you're going to make the bad decisions, you're going to do this and you're going to do that, you're going to defy your parents' rules. But at the end of the day, those exposures and those environments were stepping stools to help us to be sensitive, to help me to be sensitive to God's voice.
Yeah.
So that when God speaks, when I hear something out there, I can say, nah, that's not it. Because now when I'm on my own in university and I'm hearing, okay, let's do this or let's do that or make this decision, I'm watching everybody do this. I'm like, no, that's not what I grew up knowing.
Yeah.
Right? My mom used to make a joke all the time and she would say, angels don't go in the club. So I was always hesitant with my friends. I'd be like, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do this, I don't do that. I
Yeah.
want to go to the club. Maybe I'll go to a house party, either way, it's the same thing, same difference. Both
Yeah.
parties, same differences, but nonetheless, my point is that voice stuck,
Yeah.
in my mind that like this place is not the right place, And so even if I do go, like my conscience is stirred. So those exposures develop the conscience so that my conscience was trained to be sensitive to what is right and what is wrong. And so
Yeah.
that when God does come, it's easier for me to say, okay, I know it's you,
Yeah.
And even if not, but here's the love of God. Like I look at Paul or Saul, from Saul to Paul. I wouldn't say Saul was the most sensitive to God's voice because he was persecuting Christ's servants.
Yep.
But God was able to speak to that man,
Yeah.
have a moment with that man and transform his life. So it doesn't really matter where you're coming from. exposure or no exposure, it's just going to take much more effort, right? But God will find you,
Yeah.
and God will appeal to you, and if you answer to Him, He can change your life. So, yeah.
And do you think that that is not spoken about enough? The fact that God can find you wherever you are.
It's not. I think that Satan, we're living in, like the reality behind what we can see. There's a war between Christ and Satan, and he overwhelms us with guilt. He overwhelms us with a thought that I've gone too low for God to redeem me. Overwhelms us with a thought that, God cannot forgive this sin. It's too far. I've gone too far.
Yeah.
And we need to be reminded that that's part of love, grace, and mercy.
Yeah.
Is that God can redeem you. He will redeem you. He did it with Mary Magdalene. He cast out 7 demons. He said, the Bible says she had 7 demons, devils.
Yeah.
Right. He can do it.
Yeah.
He can do it. And I think the part that we also don't want to address is the accountability part, that we are working with God.
Yeah.
God transforms us, but there's a work that we can do, and He cannot do what you can do.
So there's some things that we are.
You got to put in the effort. If you're having a problem with that bottle, and that liquor, that drink is not doing you well, and it's not good for you, you also have to put yourself in environments that's not going to make it easy for the devil to tempt you. Because half the time, the devil's not tempting us. We're tempting him to tempt us.
Yeah.
And he will do it. You walk into that bar, all they're selling at night, they're not giving you burgers. They're selling you a drink. Right? You put yourself in that environment. He's like, why not? Here you go. Someone will come and say, hey, it's on me. Right? So we have to work with God. The things we know we shouldn't do, the things we want to overcome, the things we're having a hard time with, we got to say, Lord, help me. I'm having a hard time. Yeah. But also, I need to make the conscious decision to try to stay away from it the best that I can.
Yeah. You're talking about that, about, the effort that we need to put in ourselves. I'm just thinking about that story about Lot and him pitching his tent close to Sodom. That's what the Bible says. That's how the Bible illustrates it.
Yes.
He decides to go and pitch his tent closer to Sodom because that's where, I guess, that's the downtown Toronto, closer to the banks or the Bay Street of the time. And probably he is an investment banker. And I mean, he can't be living in, I don't know, Jerusalem mountains or whatever they're called. Yeah. He wants to live closer to where the action is. And I guess sometimes we put ourselves in that situation where we are chasing something, but in that, in that fact that we are chasing something, we also end up putting ourselves in harm's way, and maybe we can find a way out of harm's way, and we end up, tempting the devil to tempt us. That's what you said.
Yeah. Tempting the devil to tempt us.
The beautiful thing about you here is that you have this quotes that you have, you're just spitting out of you like this. That I can't even get to put down. When you put your stuff on social media, are you always looking for, people to walk away with one thing? Or are you just hoping that, it can reach whoever it can reach in whatever way? Do you always plan it out?
I always pray about it. I say, Lord, give me a word in season for someone who needs it today, and whether it's me typing a little quote that I get from another sermon or that I read in a devotional, or whether it's me reposting a part of a sermon, I'm like, you go before me.
Yeah.
Send your angels to prepare hearts to be receptive of it. Like I said, the word is there to help us to clarify what is misunderstood, what we don't get.
Yeah.
And I just hope that whatever, it's not my word. I'm not preaching my opinion. It's not my thing. This is what he says. And I'm hoping that whatever it is that whenever I touch a pulpit, my aim is to just regurgitate, to say what he said, not what I think, and to help that clarification, So that's what I'm hoping for when I post. I'm not really planning. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I go and listen to my own sermon, and I'm like, I'm like, okay, God, inspire me so that I can choose a section that will free somebody from whatever bondage that they might be in. So that's really my aim. I'm doing the little that I can. I read before in a devotional. You do what's in front of you. And I think that's what got me started in social media, was doing what's in front of me, because I'm like, Lord, I wrote in my book 6 years ago, I want to travel the world. I didn't start traveling the world until 2022. So that's 3 years later. Right? So that's a 3-year wait.
Yep.
just to travel the world. But what
Yeah.
are you doing those 3 years? Just sitting?
You gotta be
But
doing
those are
something.
3 years where I got to start my podcast. I testify. I
Yeah.
testify with some of
Yeah.
the youth at my church. That was the year that those were the years, those 3 years where I was putting out content on social media. And where are people gonna find you in order to invite you to preach? By seeing the consistency.
Yeah.
They don't know you. I didn't go to school. I'm not a pastor. I'm none of that. Right.
Yeah.
So taking up the work that's in front of you and doing the best that you can, and
Would
God will
you
do the rest.
go to school?
I didn't go to school
No.
for.
What I'm saying is, would you go to what do they call it? Seminary?
Interesting question. I actually would not go to seminary. Now, this is what I say. Why would I take off time to go to school for 4 years, to tie myself down and to basically have to say no to some of my engagements because they're off the fly. I go by faith. It's like a pilgrim walk, you know,
Yeah.
to get qualified for something that God is already doing, you know.
True.
That's just part of my ego to say like I did something, it's almost like I'm going out of my way to credit myself
Yeah.
to do something that God is doing. You know, if he's already done it, I've flown. I go, you know, I was looking at 2024. I went somewhere every month of the year. I didn't call anyone to do that. God did it for me,
Yeah.
you know. So again, it's a journey. What I've learned in this speaking engagement thing and being a speaker is really the journey of faith. It's been a lesson, a tough lesson in faith
Yeah.
for me, you know, to learn what is it to firmly depend on God, to have
Yeah.
nobody. I can't depend on no one. I can't call anyone. I don't have a firm I can call and say, do you have an engagement for me this month? I'm looking for money. I'm literally saying, Lord, if you
are
call, I
you
will
are my
say yes.
agency.
Yeah, you're my agency. There you go. You're my agency. You know,
Yeah.
if I don't have something for this month or for the next 2 months, that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep pushing on social media. So it's a journey of faith. So again, I wouldn't go to seminary because I'm being trained in the school of Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
in the
Beautiful.
school of sorrow. You know, tears.
True.
You know, I've learned to be tough. I've learned to have thick skin. I've learned to come out of the fire, to be in the furnace of affliction, and have Jesus in there with me. And that's enough. That's enough for me. That's my journey. I have nothing against school or anything. I think it's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing, and there are God's servants all over the world who've been through seminary, who are killing it, who are pastors. That's just not my mission. Isn't to be a shepherd of the flock. My mission is just to be a regular girl,
Yeah.
a mom,
Doing your thing.
a sister, you know, a friend who's out here doing
There's-
doing her part.
There's something you said there which I found quite intriguing. You know, Jesus coming and being with you in the fire. Is that what you said?
Yes, yeah.
And I was thinking about, you know, the story that we hear about the three Hebrew boys
Yes.
who were thrown in some fire somewhere, and then Jesus shows up with, well, my understanding is that it's Jesus who showed up in that
Yes,
fire with them,
exactly.
right? I mean, that's what the Bible doesn't say that directly, but from
Yes,
my
it's
study of
Christ.
literature, at least, that's what I deduce.
Yes.
And I think it's beautiful, though, that we can actually be here going through something, and Jesus can show up and be with us through that. How does that make you feel when you know that Jesus is walking with you in that
It
fire?
is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming because I'm old enough, 29, to know even when I stand in a pulpit, when I look out, I see people smiling, looking pretty, but I know it's broken hearts.
Yep.
I'm old enough to know that. Can't fool me. I can't fool you because we're all going through something. But also, I'm old enough to understand that even with whatever affliction you're under, you can still have peace and
Yeah.
be genuinely, when I say genuinely happy, you can be genuinely happy, no strings attached, and at peace, even in the fire. And that is such an overwhelming experience because I've been through that. I've seen it firsthand. I've gone through it when the pressure is high, but I have peace.
Yeah.
But I have happiness, and I'm like, thank you, God. Like, this is how I know you're God. Because how can you keep me here
Yeah.
when outside here is raging?
Yeah.
You know, so
I don't know if you know something called pressure treatment of wood. So I also don't understand the phenomenon exactly, but I
Yes.
think wood is treated with heat and lots of pressure at the same time.
Okay.
And what that does, it makes the wood to be stronger and durable, so it can be eaten by termites, and it can withstand pressure. So I think most of the buildings,
That are made out of wood,
that are made out
yes,
of wood
are
would be made with
treated.
pressure treated wood. And so when you're saying here right now that when the pressure is high,
Yes.
and I also could add there and the fire is very hot, that also builds you to be more resilient and
Yeah.
stronger. And I also think that it gives you experiences that then can enable you to relate with
With
your
others.
congregation or with your audience, and
Yeah.
they can understand you better.
Yeah, because like, I remember when I first started, my uncle, he's an evangelist, and he said to me, when you preach about something you haven't experienced, they can feel it and they know it. They know it, and there's something beautiful about, I've seen, I was going through something last week or this week, and I got a call from a young lady, and she said, one of the evangelistic campaigns that I did, and she had gotten baptized. And she said, I'm walking away from the faith. I'm done. I'm mad at God. And I said, what you mad at? Like, what did he do to you? And when you leave, where are you going? We had a conversation. I said, with all due respect, I will not allow you. I'm not going to sit here and allow you to do that. And I can't force you. I was just saying it lighthearted. I can't
Yeah.
force you. But, and I gave her a word, and I said to God, I was going through those exact same feelings. I said to her, you know what's interesting? I was going through those exact same feelings. Not the part of walking away, but the feeling of like frustration or how is it frustration, pain,
Yeah.
hurt. And I'm feeling like, Lord, come on, do something for me, And I said, I know what that feels like. And for me to say that to her, I said, Lord, you allowed this affliction this week so I could pour life into her, so I could check myself, check my own feelings by encouraging somebody else to get up.
Yeah.
And I said, thank you, because I'm realizing that part of it is I need to feel and experience. I'm young, 29, but I need to feel and experience certain things, certain pressures in a different way than somebody maybe even, because sometimes you're speaking to people who have had more experience than you. They're 60,
Yeah.
they're 80,
Yeah.
but in the faith, they're babies. And how do you speak to somebody who has life experience and all you have is theory? Because I've had a short life. 29 is not a lot.
True.
So how do you impact a heart that has seen it all? They've seen recession, they've seen World War II, and you want to speak to them about the love of God, not just the love of God, but what he could do to transform your life. They're looking at you like, no way, Jose.
Yeah.
So in order to be able to do that, there's certain pressures you've got to feel. So when you speak to them, they can say, indeed, you have a wisdom that didn't come from experience, but a wisdom that came from above, and that can only come through the school of sorrow, through the trials we go through.
True. If you were to talk to someone who feels lost and unloved today,
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
I would tell them that there is a way out. I think for a lot of people, they've reasoned in their minds that they've just believed there is no way out. There's nothing I can do. There is a way out. There is. And it sounds cliche, but it's in Jesus. And if you want to know how you can be stuck in your situation, stop praying. The minute you stop praying, block contact with God, it's done. There is a way out, and persevere in prayer. Tell God, I don't have no option. I don't have anyone but you. Go on a walk. And I found in nature alone where God will do it. Get away from the house, from the hustle and bustle. Go on a walk. Cry your heart out. But do not stop praying, even if it's just, Lord, help me. But there is a way out. And that's the only hope I can give you, the desire of ages. I can't say it any other way. There is no other way but through Christ.
Yeah.
Keep praying and know that there's a way out. Man, you can never reach a level that God cannot lift you up from. Yeah. So.
Man, thanks, Melissa, for hanging out here with me today. It's really a pleasure that you came out and sat
It's my
here with me
pleasure.
today. I called you. I reached out to you, I think, about a month ago,
Yes.
and we were talking. And we were looking for a day when you were available. I didn't even think it would be this soon. I was looking at maybe she's gonna be available 6 months from now or
Oh
something
no.
like that. But let's just start the conversation going,
Yes, yes, yes.
and then
No.
we'll make it work. And I feel like sitting here, I probably asked you questions or even told you things that have put you in, probably even made you emotional. And I want to apologize for that. But also want to thank you for being vulnerable enough, to share with the world here that they have a solution, and that all hope is not lost, even when you feel hopeless and loved and confused. You
No,
know.
thank you for a platform that allows us, you don't know. You think we are doing something for others, but you are doing something for us, for me, not even for them, but for me. Because as you get to share your story, you also draw strength.
Yeah.
As you get to sort of remember the things that keep you afloat, and remember those principles, all those punchlines that you said I was giving. I'm remembering them for myself. So thank you for an opportunity, for a platform that allows people to share their stories and allows people to be in touch with the things, the commitments they made in the past, and to renew that vigor. So thank you.
True. When people sit where you're seated today, I normally treat them like a president of the United States. Well, maybe that's a lie. I treat them like presidents or queens and kings. And I borrowed this principle from the outgoing president of the United States, who normally leaves a letter for the next president who comes into the office of the United States. They normally leave them a letter. And so what I do is I ask the guest who's seated here before you to leave a question for the next guest on the show. So the guest who was here most recently left a question for you. They normally don't know who the guest is going to be.
Okay.
And I never see the question until I'm just about to ask it.
Okay.
So
Let's
I
do
just saw this
this.
question right now.
Okay.
So what would you do if today were your last day on earth?
What would I do if today were my last day on earth? I'd make sure all my sins are confessed. I would have a conversation with my daughter. Maybe even write her a letter about being firm in her faith and how God would carry her through steps, books, literature. Because I think in a dark world, the only way is God, and I would want her to be strong, to be a strong woman of character, of dignity, a woman of faith, and to finish the work of the gospel, because that's all that matters in this time, finish the work of the gospel. So I would do that. And then I'd probably make a video, because that's what I like doing. I'd probably leave a video and do one last sermon. One last sermon. Maybe just a testimony to close out my life record.
That is well thought out. You mentioned your daughter here, and I was just wondering, do you involve her in your ministry? I've seen in a couple of videos.
So she's 3. So I involve her in that. So I've decided that my social media platform is going to be my little sermons and talks, and then being intentional in teaching her certain principles through whatever she touches, whether that's cooking, practice, healthy habits and taking care of your body and your mind. We sing, because I realized from young she liked to sing. So the exposures, I exposed her to content and things that allow her to develop in her love for Christ, and I showcase that. So I involve her in that way, because I try to reach her at her intellectual level. Sometimes we push so hard for a 3-year-old to act like she's 5, for a 5-year-old to preach like he's 10, for a 10-year-old to act like he's 20. But for at 1, I'm like, Lord, give me the wisdom. So at 1, I'm teaching her what she can understand at 1. I can, or demonstrate, or whatever it is, even if it's just going out and playing, because that's what kids need. So I involve her in that way. But she's going to be turning 4 next year, and I'm hoping that from then on we can travel together, and she can actually learn to be in the front lines of the gospel. And wherever God leads her, I don't know what his plan is for her life. She will learn what's important. People are important.
Beautiful.
Serving people are important. That mommy makes the sacrifices, and we as a family can make those sacrifices together. No, we can work together in order to do that. And she sees the beauty of what God can do for people and through people, then she will follow the same path in her way.
Yeah, maybe this is for me. How do you teach her to sing? Or how do you keep her in that, how have you nurtured that talent of singing?
So I didn't nurture the talent. I guess nurturing. I guess you give the opportunity, and I think I've learned that from. And I want to say this with respect, white people. I think with Black people, we don't expose our children to a lot of things, and even if we do, we just leave it. If he's good at it, yeah, it's whatever. But I've learned to expose her. So I exposed her early on when she was just a few months. I would put on the little Sabbath school, Mount Moriah Sabbath school songs, even if she's, and then you see her like, because I think early on we start with the Miss Rachels and all these other shows and, Baby Shark Doo-Doo. And I said, no, Lord, I want to expose her to content that will develop here, but her love for the truth. And as I was doing that, being consistent with it, she knows in the morning we turn on Mount Moriah. She knows on Sabbath. Like now, even at 2, she knows, okay, on Sabbath, I can only watch Sabbath shows. And she knows what a Sabbath show is. I'll just say Sabbath show and she won't go on the regular, so just giving the opportunity and seeing what they're good. And then I see that she actually is singing the songs back. And then I realize, that maybe that's her gift, and I develop it. If it's not working, then I try something else. But so just giving the opportunity and being consistent, even if they're not catching it fast, be consistent. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I'm a parent too, and I'm always struggling, with trying to ensure that my daughter turns out well, great, perfect. But I hope that, that doesn't, drive me into, what you said, pushing her to act like she's 15 when she's just 2.
Yeah. We're guilty of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to write a question for the next guest on the show.
Okay, I'm excited. I have to think it through.
So take your time. I'm not going to see the question until the next guest is seated next
Wonderful.
to me.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I am very thankful once again that you are seated here with me today. But it is also possible that in the, in my quest to ask you questions or have this conversation with you, there's probably something you wanted to say. I either cut you off or didn't give you an opportunity to say it, or something that you just thought that, it's important that you would like to say. If there's anything that you would, like to say and, let the folks out there know, you can let them know right now.
Anything I'd like the folks to know.
Or anything you'd like to say that, as your parting shot.
We're living in tough times. We're living in dangerous times. We're living in confusing times. We're living in dark times. And this is the moment where you have to leave the childish things behind. I think we're living in a time where we're so unserious about life. Be serious. Take things seriously, and not just for your sake, but for the generations to come, and think of things in terms of salvation. Our salvation is on the line, whether we are saved, not just for this life, but for the life to come, your mental state, the health of your mind, the health of your body. Like, be very intentional. I think we live in a generation where we're not. Be intentional about your decision making. Whatever you do, there is nothing small. Whatever you reap, you will sow. You reap what you sow. So we have to be intentional. So be very serious. We are a very unserious generation. Everything is jokes. Everything is laughter. Everything is pleasure seeking. And we try to drown out those feelings and those thoughts and with that. But be very serious. Be very intentional, and take your relationship with God seriously. Not in theory, not in words, but be genuine and sincere. And God will see you through, and you will see your life change. That's all that I have for you.
Thanks, Melissa. Thanks for, honoring us once again. Thanks again for honoring us with your presence today.
No, thank you. I had fun, and thank you.
Beautiful, folks. This has been the Couch Connect. Today, I've been hanging out with Melissa Thandekile. I hope I said it correctly.
You did.
Yeah, so I'm encouraging you to subscribe to this channel and do like this episode, and remember to tell your friends to tell their friends. Till next time, do take care. Kwaheri. Kwaheri is goodbye in Swahili.
Oh, Kwaheri.
Yeah.
Kwaheri.